Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We got Marcellus Wiley coming up in just over an hour. NFL camps continuing. Get his take on the James Harden situation as well. Marcellus, a big Clippers fan. I'm not sure he even watched James Harden.
Why would you want him? Well, I guess there's potential that he's going to be a good
how
player.
He plays.
Yes. And the Clippers are kind of in that, like, they got to win.
And they're
aging.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're desperate. Like, they don't have a long history of guys wanting to go to the Clippers. It was Kawhi, Paul George. Who else?
Which is interesting, though, because you think about the geography behind it. It's L.A.
It is L.A.
You know, it's Staples or whatever, Crypto.com arena, right? Like, if you're not going to play for the Lakers, might as well play for the Clippers.
Not bad. It's probably, in a way, a better life because you get everything that is L.A. without the pressure of being a Laker.
Sure.
Right? Like, yeah. And not only that, LeBron is a Laker, so he's taken up all of the oxygen.
Yeah, you fly right under the radar.
Right under the radar.
Although James Harden, if he was there, will not fly under the radar because he will make a point to take up oxygen there. That's who he is, and that's what he does.
He probably will. He probably will. Yeah. You look at it, we were just talking about the top 50 list in the NHL, which I guess we'll be coming up with soon. And the top 50 list of the NBA, we should do that as well. Like, where would James Harden fit in if he's not even playing anywhere? Like, can you project him just not being available all year?
Hey, he's going to be playing a year in China.
He's very
said he's like
See
very
how much money he's making
it.
out over there? Like, I guess he's got some wine that he put on sale, like an exclusive offer.
Okay.
And he sold like a ridiculous amount of wine in like 10 minutes.
I had no idea about
because
the wine.
he's a god over there in China.
Really?
Yeah, James Harden. Like, basketball is massive in China.
For sure.
And you get any big name superstar that's willing to go over there and do stuff. Like, it's the red carpet everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
People are like crying in the street because James Harden's walking around.
Dude, maybe he'll follow Noodles and go play a year of his sport over in Asia.
Well, that did happen with Noodles when Noodles was playing over there.
I think he played for like Nippon or something.
Yeah, when Noodles was in Japan, it was full. It was basically the Neymar treatment. Mansion, staff.
Yeah.
700 million.
WhatsApp chat, like, hey, can you grab me some chicken fingers and fries tonight?
Whatever he needs. Whatever he needs.
Yeah.
Right? All right, let's bring him in here. Courtesy of the Maple Toyota Hotline. We had O on yesterday. Here he is, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
What's up?
What's up, Mr. Japan? Mr. Japan.
Yeah, when you were talking about that, I was laughing. I'm like, was my 2-bedroom cement cell in Japan with the Nippon paper cranes? There was no mansion. There was no Lamborghinis. I didn't get the messy treatment. I wasn't going to the grocery store being followed or anything like that. But I will say, Harden. I agree with you, Frankie. He's going to make noise because guess what they have in L.A.? Strip clubs.
Yes,
and
a lot of
this
good
guy,
ones.
I Googled just before I came on the best strip clubs in L.A. Spearmint Rhino, Rio Gentleman, the Gentleman's Club. This guy is going to live there.
Yeah.
You know him.
Oh, he knows L.A. He's from L.A. Like, he gets it, man. He knows what's up out there. And that's the amazing thing about Harden. Like, that's kind of his rep.
Dude, you know what he's going to have?
What's this guy up to away from the court?
You know those, like, they're like the fake guns that shoot out the $1 bills? He's going to be pointing that thing in the air, shooting ones everywhere.
He walks in. He's got stacks of cash.
Yeah.
When Harden rolls through, man, it's
the air gun full of ones ready to rock.
I'll be honest, I've been seeing those videos of him in China. You're right. People crying in the street, him dancing with some like TikToker and stuff. Like, it is an insanity over there. But you're right. They throw money at these guys. And I know, like, there's a lot of political opinions when it comes to going over there, all of that type of stuff. LeBron's pretty quiet talking about China. But at the end of the day, it is cash. And these guys make bank when they go over there.
Oh,
Big
absolutely.
time.
And the NBA does too, right? That's why the NBA doesn't want anyone stepping out of line.
Yeah.
Like, no one, because, hey, we got to make sure that, because it's a massive market and largely untapped market. And listen, that's the way the economy works. If the money's there, if you can find a piece, then that's going to go a long way. So, it's good to see. It's good to have you on here. And we were discussing the Jonathan Toews Chicago thing, and I guess we're getting close to the Quizmaster sending out the annual email that the top 50, right, is going to have to be in likely by the end of September. And we were wondering where Connor Bedard might be on that list. I think he's going to be in the top 50. He'll if I can project properly, like McDavid was as a rookie. I think it's tough to get on there. I would guess Sid probably was as a rookie. Maybe Ovi was if we were doing it almost 20 years ago. Bedard will be on the list, but I think he'll be somewhere in the 40s, maybe mid to high 30s. Anything higher than that, to me, just seems a little bit unreasonable.
Aggressive?
Yes, a bit aggressive.
I'm trying to think of it as off the top of my head. Like, do I want to put him somewhere high? Yes, but there's too many good players in the league right now. Like, does he top some of the guys that we had in the mid-20s? And then you see some legacy players. Are they going to start to drop off? Like, I know Patrick Haynes and guys like that probably aren't going to make it, but it's, there's a cycle. And I do believe Bedard will make it. O's going to have him in the top 10, but I'm not going to put him there. 100% he is not top 10 for me, even if he proves it by Christmas. It's just, you got to earn it, and I just haven't seen him against, we'll call it the men. He's played against, man-childs. He's played against guys like that, but he hasn't played against a grown man, as Babcock would say, who's got to feed his family and all of that type of stuff. So we'll see how it unfolds. But I think he's probably, realistically, I'd put him in the 40s, in the 35 to 40 type of range, because now it's a coin flip of who you like and who you don't.
Well, and that seems fair. He's also never played against he's going to play on a bad team. Chicago's not going to be a good team.
They're going to be terrible again.
Right? So that's going to go against him as well. But this year when we do that list, there's going to be movement, at least on my list, right? Like, I had Jack Hughes,
he was 49th last year. I'm looking at the list right now.
He was lower on my list.
He's probably in the top 10 now.
Jack Hughes is going to be
49.
He was 49. Jack Hughes. That's a guy that's moving way up the list.
Yes.
Way up.
Jason Robertson was 44th.
Yeah.
On the list last year. Those are two guys.
There's going to be a lot of movement this year.
Hayes, quickly, just you have it in front of you.
Yes.
What was your top 10, and what guy could drop out right now of your top 10?
Let me run down the top 10 last year of TSN's top 50. I mean. Okay, so this was released October 6th, 2022. All right, it was McDavid 1, Matthews 2, McCarr 3, Draisaitl 4, McKinnon 5, Hedman 6, Vasilevsky 7, Kucherov 8, Barkov 9, Kaprizov 10.
Oh, okay.
So
that's a pretty solid 10.
It's very difficult to make a case. Hedman had a bit of a down year last year based on his standards. He's up there in age. Maybe I could see Hedman coming out. Vasilevsky, I'd be very careful. I know where you're going to go, Noodles, and you can take the floor in a moment. I wouldn't be shocked if Vasilevsky fell out of the top 10. I'm not saying he should, but I wouldn't be shocked. And then, I
don't think Crosby is a lock to come out of the top 10.
Crosby was 11th last year, and he played like a top 10 player.
I had Crosby at 8. I have mine open right now. Crosby was 8. I had Kucherov 9, Yossi 10, and Noodles is going to be mad at me, but I had Vasilevsky at 11.
Mm-hmm.
No,
that's
listen,
a ballpark,
and it is a ballpark, and we talk about it. Goalies, I always have felt, are undervalued, but it doesn't mean, Vasilevsky statistically had a down season last year, didn't take the team to the promised land. So, people are going to go, well, he's more human than we thought, but he's still, arguably, like Matthews had, by his standards, somewhat of a down year. Where would he be? And,
he did.
He's not going to be
But I still think Austin Matthews is a top 5 player. So does Matthews drop from 2, and who climbs to the 2 then? Is it Draisaitl? Because Draisaitl gets lost in the shuffle. I still feel like Draisaitl will be like 5 or 6, and people would be like, just forget about him. It's weird. Mm-hmm. Does McCarr take a step back? Because we didn't see him carry a team right to the finals and win. So that's the. I mean, we're nitpicking at top players, because Matthews is going to be a top 5 no matter what, in my opinion.
Well, it should be, I think.
It should be, but Jack Hughes has got to be there.
Yes.
Well, how about guys moving down, Noodles? Like Jonathan Huberdeau, after 115 points, I think a lot of people would have had him in the top 25, top 30. Now, where's he going? Is he
I don't
staying
think he
up
makes
there?
the list.
He might not even make the top 50.
I don't know based on. Now, I think he is going to have a bounce back year. But when you have a guy who went from 115 points down to 56, 58, we'll call it 60, round up, that's a massive drop-off. You don't deserve to be in that top 50 unless you believe he's going to have that bounce-back year. But I think Huberdeau, I don't know if I'd put him in my top 50 right now. I think he's going to be a top 50 player, but he's got to go out and earn it for me. So I don't know how you guys feel about that.
No, I'm with you. Let me run through a few guys. I got a handful of guys who are on the list here. And I'm not suggesting they won't be in some capacity. I think at least 1 or 2 of these guys most certainly will. but just comparing them to Connor Bedard, who do you think has a better year this year? Connor Bedard or Jonathan Huberdeau?
Ooh. I think Bedard is like 65 points. So do I think I think Huberdeau probably does better than that.
Yeah, I think Huberdeau does because he's going to have a better team. So I'm expecting Lindholm to have a bounce-back year. I'm expecting Kadri to have a bounce-back year. Go right through that list. Like Calgary underachieved. I'm expecting their goaltender to make saves this year. Like Calgary, I think, could have a bounce-back year just through based on expectations of their players and how many of them had down years last year. So I'm going Huberdeau over Bedard on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm leaning Bedard, and it's simply recency bias because of how awful Huberdeau was last year.
Yeah. You're
it's like
right.
I can't stop. Yeah. Like I have this mental image of him. His whole reputation changed.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that he just had a down. Like you mentioned Matthews. Matthews, based on his standards, had a down year. He had 41 goals still and well over a point a game. Huberdeau had one of the biggest statistical drops in NHL history.
History of the game.
In the history of the game. It was staggering how bad it was. And we all know he and Sutter were not on the same page. Sutter's not there anymore. It's incumbent on the new coach, Ryan Huska, to make sure that he sparks Huberdeau. Has to, because he's getting paid 10.5 now. But I don't think it's a lock Huberdeau's better than Bedard. I think it's a lock Calgary's better than Chicago. I'll grant you that.
Right.
Yeah.
But okay, what about JT Miller versus Connor Bedard?
Oof.
Well, now Miller had 99 points last year. What did he have this past or the season prior
2 years ago,
put him on the list? Right. So what did he have last year? I'm just
I thought he had some injury issues, didn't he? I think he dropped out.
He was a very polarizing guy last year because you'd get the ISO cam of him like yelling at his teammates or breaking a stick over the net, yelling at his goalie.
Yeah, he was 82. He had 82 points last year and 81.
Again.
So
that's pretty good, actually. He didn't have injuries. He played 81 games, 32 goals, 82 points. That's a pretty good season, man. That's a really good statistical year.
So, and he's at $9 million, right? No, he's at 8.
8 something.
I think he's at 8. Yeah. So, I think Vancouver might be a better team this year too, though. Like that's the thing. They made some sneaky. What they did was they shored up. And Frankie, you could speak to this. They shored up their D a lot better. I like some of their moves on the back end.
They did, right? And what they did was they structured the cap much better on their back end, right? Because now they don't have Oliver Ekman-Larsson making $8.5 million, so that allowed them to get Soucy and get Ian Cole. They're going to get a full year out of Philip Hronek, who's got that guy's got a lot to prove coming from Detroit.
Yeah.
Like. They moved on from him.
The big one. The goalie
is the big one.
Yeah,
they moved on from Hronek, and it's like it's not that Detroit was looking to get rid of a right-handed defenseman. They brought in Petrie and Justin Hall. They just didn't want him. Right?
Clearly.
They didn't want him. So now he's got something to prove in Vancouver. So they should be hovering around that playoff spot, and JT Miller's going to have to be a big part of that.
He is polarizing, but statistically, it would indicate Miller's going to have a better year. Like a higher end. If he scores 30 and gets close to a point a game, I don't think Bedard's doing that.
And I think Miller's going to have a better year. This Pettersson has taken a step to superstardom too.
Dude,
there's a guy that's creeping into the top 10 conversation.
I got one for you.
Last year.
You want one?
Yeah.
Vladimir Tarasenko or Connor Bedard?
Bedard.
Yeah,
all day. All day.
Didn't even have to like.
I don't know. I
thought that was a juicy one. I thought you were going to look at me like, that's close.
Listen, he's on a 1 year, show me what you got type deal. And listen, Ottawa's going to use him. There's no question about that. But he's in a different part in his career. I find I don't trust how in shape he's going to be. Like, this Bedard kid is going to play every situation. As good as Tarasenko can be and he'll play a prominent role, he's not going to play the equivalent role that Bedard will in Chicago. Everything will run through Bedard in Chicago. That's not going to be the case with Tarasenko in Ottawa.
Right. Like, Tarasenko's probably, I realistically think he's second power play there. So you're right. Mm-hmm. Like, that power play, Ottawa's power play was quite strong. They got Josh Norris back as well.
Right.
Like, I think they've added to their depth, but I agree. I think Bedard's going to get every opportunity in the prime spots to be the guy to get the points. So I think Bedard's going to have more points than Tarasenko just based on the opportunity that Bedard's going to be afforded compared to a guy like Tarasenko where Stützle's the guy.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Stützle and Brady Tkachuk's the guy.
Play. Yeah.
Right.
And I think Giroux's going to get probably still PP one time. And, exactly. Like, it's not that Tarasenko is not capable of it. I just don't know if he'll get the opportunity. Speaking of Ottawa or former players, what about Alex DeBrincat versus Connor Bedard? Who you got?
There's a good one.
Better season, DeBrincat or Bedard?
Wow. Listen, DeBrincat, he should be in and around 40 goals. And then you add in the assists. There's no reason why that shouldn't be a 70, 75-point player.
Again, not a great team, though, in Detroit.
No.
I don't see a great team there.
But will he get the same opportunities that Bedard is going to get with Chicago, right?
He probably will.
That's what you're looking at there.
I actually think they might be close in goals, close in points type of thing, just based on opportunity. Now, Bedard projects to be a lot better player, but again, first year, I think he might have a target on him. I'm fascinated to see what Bedard's going to be like in the league, because he's a guy that, there's expectation there, and all eyes are going to be on him because, everyone watches McDavid. Everyone watches Matthews. This is the new shiny toy.
Right.
And let's see how the new shiny toy holds up against some of these guys. Because when it's Chicago, Edmonton, when it's Chicago, Toronto, when it's, Chicago, Jersey, Jack Hughes against it, we're going to see how this guy holds up against the best in the league. And he's going to be on trial every night, and guys are going to try and take runs at him. Doesn't mean they're going to put him through the boards or anything, because the leagues change. Mm-hmm. But I think he's going to have to prove himself over and over again. So it'll be interesting with Bedard.
No, I think you're right, but history would suggest this level of hype hits the ground running.
Right.
McDavid ran into an injury, he blew his shoulder out, but he was well on his way to a big season. Sid Novi, the rookie years, had 100 points. Novi scored 50 goals as a rookie. Lindros, when he stepped in, now he was older because obviously we know what happened with Quebec, but when Big E stepped in, it was get out of his way. Man. This guy's here.
Austin Matthews scored 4 goals his first game. All the guy did his first year was score at 5-on-5.
Right.
He did. He was a 5-on-5 goal scoring machine.
40 and I think 69 points.
Yeah.
So and we were at that game.
We were at that game, and it, you talk about a first impression. You were there playing.
I wasn't playing.
You were in a suit, but you were there. You were a part
We
of
were
it.
actually right beside you, Frankie. We were in the press box, were we not?
We could have had a beer. I was watching down below in the dungeon of the arena. We should have met up for a beer.
Yeah, we should have.
It would have been fun.
Absolutely. But, that I think that's the bar. That's being reasonable. You go first overall, that level of hype. And, Matthews was a different situation because he happened to be in a good scenario with a pretty good team. They were a playoff team his rookie year.
Yeah.
Edmonton wasn't with McDavid. Sid, the Pens were awful when Sid showed up. And same with Washington. When Ovi got there, they were not a good team. They were not.
Yeah.
So, I do think the fact that he's not going to be on a very deep team, they're probably going to trade some veterans come the deadline. But if he stays healthy, I think you're expecting at a minimum 25 goals, 65 points. Minimum.
I think that's very reasonable.
Anything less would be probably a disappointing rookie year for a guy of that hype.
So I was being a little bit crazy in my mind thinking about, I think 30 and 40. I'd love to see him hit 30 his first year because he's a shooter. This guy can bring the puck. He might be, when it's all said and done, pure goal scorer and passer and distributor number 2 type of thing. I think he's the guy who wants the puck on a stick and he wants to shoot that puck. And he's got an elite, big-time, top-tier shot. There's going to be times on this show, the three of us are going to be talking and saying, he's got Matthews type of velocity, Matthews type of release type of thing. When I see him from a goaltender's perspective, he's more in that category than he is in the other categories, Marner vision, all of that type of stuff. I think he's, when it comes back to it and talking to people that coached against him in the WHL and that, they were always fearful of his shot because he could score from anywhere.
Yes.
And I don't think that's going to change in the NHL. So I put the expectation at 30 goals for him. I don't know what the assists are going to look like, but I think 30 is realistic for him.
Mm-hmm. That'd be a great year, man. That's a great campaign.
It would be. And listen, the track record that he's had leading up to this moment, no one's done what he's done. No one at his age did what he did at the World Juniors, and that's, the best of his age. He's been dominant. He was dominant right away as a 15-year-old in the WHL, so there's no reason why he can't step in and do it. I think, us having these comparisons as to, Bedard versus, O would look at us right now and say, you guys are all morons. He's going to be better than every single one of those guys, and he's going to get 100 points. But it wouldn't surprise me if the guy got 80 points this year. I just think at some point you need to look at it realistically and say, okay, like what's a realistic target for this guy based on the team he's going to play on, who he's going to be surrounded by, and the fact that the NHL is different.
And he's young.
It is different.
He's 18 years old. Like no one's suggesting he won't do that when he's 22, 23, 25. Yeah. Like that's coming, man. He is going to be a superstar in the league. But it's very difficult to jump right in and establish that in any pro sport.
Well, here's why I'm gonna argue against the moronic comment, because let's say he gets 80 points. Well, JT Miller had 82 last year, and we're expecting more from him. Huberdeau had 56, and we're expecting an 80-plus point. So that puts him into the stratosphere of all of these players that we just spoke about. The only difference is those guys are 30 years old and making bank, and this kid's 18. Mm-hmm. So that the argument isn't who's going to be better at 25. It's going to be who's going to have more points, more productivity next year. And that's where I think it was fair to throw those players out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the kind of company you're talking about if you're going to place him into the top 50. And that was the basis of the conversation we were having. And if you're going to go in, then guys have got to come out. And if you're going to move further up the list, then guys have got to move down.
Right.
And I think a part of the fascination with Bedard and a part of the hype is also, I think there's a portion of the hockey world that wants a true competitor with McDavid. And at this point, there isn't one. Like, as great as Draisaitl is, he's number two. As great as Matthews and McKinnon and Makar are, McDavid is a clear-cut, unanimous number one. He's holding on to the crown, and it's cemented on his head. So I think there's like this blind faith and an element of hope. And I guess I put myself in this position where I'm not expecting him to steal it from McDavid at any point in the next 2 or 3 years. But in 4 years, 5 years, could we be talking about a situation where the torch is being passed, and it would be better, I think, if it wasn't like a passing of the guard as if, okay, I've had it for 15 years. It's this young guy's coming to steal it from you.
Right.
Right? Like what Lemieux basically did to Gretzky. Like it's I'm here now. Yep. We'll battle. You're still the man, but you're not going to have it forever. I'm coming.
Well, even on a team level, right? If the Chicago Blackhawks and the Edmonton Oilers are going to play against each other in the conference finals in the West, and you can market that as McDavid versus Bedard, 1A and 1B. In the league.
It's a dream come true.
Oh, my God.
2026.
It's a dream for the league, but it's also like from a fan's point of view, for the viewer, it's like this is Curry versus LeBron, you know, in their prime, basically. And the NHL will have an opportunity if Chicago can become a team that, you know, and Edmonton
and
can
Bedard
stay
pulls
very
his weight.
good as there's a lot of things that need to happen, but those are the possibilities.
Well, I'm scared about this, though, guys. What if Bedard, it takes him a while to settle into the league, and what if he's just a star? Not like generational superstar. Like that's the thing. Like, what if he's a 90-point guy, 35 goals and 60 assists type of thing? Like McDavid got 150 points last year, and we're talking about we hope that there's somebody in that conversation. I think what separates McDavid from all the other players too is just the way he skates. Like McKinnon's explosive, Makar's explosive, like Draisaitl's strong, Matthews is strong. McDavid's just a freak, like respectfully. So like I don't know if we'll ever see Connor Bedard go end to end in the National Hockey League like McDavid does once a week.
Yeah,
like that's the scary part.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair for anyone to set their standards as, I have to skate the way McDavid skates. Like, that's not going to happen. But can you put yourself in his universe, I guess, where the conversation can happen?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not banking on it. I'm not putting money on it. Like, and I'm not betting against McDavid being anything but the king of the NHL for at least another handful of years.
Let me ask you guys this, and this stems from a comment that Gretzky made. Like, is there a chance Jack Hughes maybe slides into a role or a thought process where he's the guy who's challenging for the two hole in the league?
Yes, I think so. I think he's got to do it. Obviously, he's got to do it multiple years. And I think he's got to get, like, he's either got to score like 50 plus multiple times and be considered like the elite goal scorer. Like what Matthews had for Matthews' case for 2 was that he's the best goal scorer in the world. Now, last year that fell off, but he hit 60 the year before. 5-on-5, there's no better goal scorer in the league, and there hasn't been since Ovi was the man 4 or 5 years ago.
Since Matthews arrived.
Since he arrived, he is the king of 5-on-5 goal scoring. So you could look at that and say, goal scoring is the toughest thing to do. He does it better than anyone, so he has his name in the hat. Draisaitl, you can look at the total game, plus he scores 50 every year. I think he's the best playoff performer in the league right now, the way he shows up every single playoff game. That's the case.
Right.
Like Hughes has got to either start hitting like 120 points or 50-plus goals.
Yeah.
Like to get into that conversation.
And it's probably going to be both. Like if you're going to get to 150 points, it's going to be a combination of both. It's also going to be a combination of like, you're going to have to make highlight reels the way McDavid does. It's going to have to be every morning type stuff, highlight of the night, which he does from time to time.
He's pretty splashy. I
think pretty fun to watch play.
If we're looking and thinking throughout the league, is if there's a guy, like that's my guy that I circle and go, there's, Pettersson, I think, found another level and has pushed through to superstardom. Like, I think Hughes found that last year, and if he builds on that, maybe he's a guy that we go, that's a top 5 player on the planet. Like, that's kind of where I'm at with him.
I could see that, too. I could absolutely see that. First overall pick, though, right? Like, it's not a surprise. He's a great talent, and they got a really good team down in Jersey, man. They're a good team.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
All right, Noodles. We'll leave it there, buddy.
All right.
Good stuff. Yeah, we'll be seeing you in a couple weeks, man. It's coming quick.
Couple weeks, yeah. It is coming. It's good stuff. And, like I say, I'll be maybe one more time before I come on and get the warm-up, get the juices flowing.
You do whatever you got to do. You know that. It's your show. Door's always open.
I love it.
You guys got to make your own calls.
I'm available, so you let me know. All right.
Do it soon.
Chat soon, guys.
There
Later.
he is. Jamie Noodles McLennan joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota and check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory arriving daily. It's time to Toyota. Visit mapletoyota.com. Jim Duquette coming up. Former MLB GM, MLB Network Radio host. His take on where the Jays are at today. His take on Bichette returning, what we got into with Vladdy earlier this afternoon. So Jim's coming up. We got Marcellus Wiley still to come as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Jays off tonight. They're on their way to Cincinnati. And Bo Bichette will be joining them in Cincinnati. And they kept their head above water without Bichette, right? They were above 500 without him in the lineup.
8-7.
Yep. Yeah. Man, they miss Bo, though. Like, you can just feel it when Bichette is not in the lineup. This is his team. This is Bo Bichette's team. And it's probably been that way for a while, but this year he's put a stake in the ground.
It's the hits. It's also the energy, right, when Bo's around. I just feel like there's something about the team that's a little more upbeat, a little more energetic when he's in the lineup.
Yeah. For starters, he's their best hitter. He's their most productive player. He's playing an incredibly prominent defensive position. He's got flair. He speaks with the media. Like, he kind of checks every box you're looking for. And that's what Bo Bichette has been doing for quite some time, and it continues this year. Here's former MLB GM. You hear him on MLB Network Radio. Here's Jim Duquette. What's happening, Jim?
What's up, guys? How are we doing today?
We're doing well. We're jacked for Bichette to return. I think at times, right, over the last few years, there's been a debate. Is it Vladdy's team? Is it Bichette's team? As far as I'm concerned, it's Bichette's team. Where do you stand on that?
No, I'm with you. I was listening to you coming in, and I felt like when he was injured, a lot of whether, how they finished the season, whether there ended up being a postseason team or not, is how they would handle things while he was gone, because I think he's been that important to them. And it's obviously the level of play, the offense, the defense. There's always ways that you can look at him and say, well, he can do better. But it's hard. For me, there's only a couple guys out there that are 30 homer, 20 stolen base guys potentially. He's one of them if he was able to stay healthy. And those are hard to find up the middle, especially. So now that they've kind of held the fort while he was out, I think that they're poised to go on another run. I know people up there have kind of been frustrated that they haven't done more than that, but I think that for me, between him being out and Manoah being so inconsistent for a while. I thought they waited a little too long, actually a lot too long, to make the decision on Manoah. I'm glad they finally did it, but I think those two things have impacted them so far.
Well, it's interesting you say that because we were talking about it earlier about, some of the shields that have been up, the stories that have been up that have kind of protected the story of Vladdy Guerrero Jr. And on a positive note, it's been Bichette, how great he's been. On a negative note, it's been Manoah and how really horrible his season's gone. And underneath all that is Vladdy, who, he's got the Hall of Fame last name. He's got a superstar brand and reputation. He had an all-world season in 2021. Yet this year, he's got a 116 OPS plus. He's hit 18 home runs. He's hit into 17 double plays. Like, this is not superstar production, and it really hasn't been since 2021. So, we're all trying to label Vladdy. What is he? Is he good? Is he very good? Is he elite? How would you label Vladdy Guerrero Jr.?
Well, I think it's all fair. I do think, he's 25 still?
Yeah, he's 24. Yep.
24. So he's just starting to enter his prime. And I think that the difficult part is he made it look so easy a couple of years ago. 22 years old. You don't see many 22-year-olds do that, right, around the sport. Arguably MVP. He was MVP worthy for sure.
Right.
And so now, he has a down year, obviously, and this year, I think he's been trying to play catch up. It hasn't worked. There's a couple things for me. Is considering whether he should still play first base or not, how much he's on his feet versus just DHing. I know he wants to play the field. I get that, but there's some kind of line, we'll call it, that they have to try to figure out with him about just DHing. That play the other night that Espinal threw in the dirt, that's a catchable ball. It should have been caught. I know the error goes to Espinal. It really, a good first base, not even a good first baseman, an average first baseman makes that play in the dirt. So they have to really come to that grips, to the grips on maybe not playing him as much over there at first base. So that's another decision they're going to have to make down the road. But I still think that he is impactful. Maybe he's not the superstar player. He was a very good player, an all-star, every couple of years or whatever. Is that good enough for the Corrado? It's hard to find those guys around the sport. So I think at worst that he'll be that. He still has a chance to be impactful.
Well, and despite Vladdy not being a superstar or playing at superstar status, there are a lot of good stories with this team right now, the rotation being one of them. Yeah. There's a lot of consistency there. The bullpen has been a revelation. But run support has been an issue, right? And one of the players they brought in, and it's a replacement level guy, Paul DeYoung, right? But they don't go for any big bats at the trade deadline. They bring in Jordan Hicks, who's been really good out of the pen. Do you think the Jays should have done more to address the need for scoring at the deadline?
Well, I do. I think that if we go back even further, last winter, they took, and they've kind of made some choices on the offensive front, right? They thought they could replace Semien. A couple of years ago, they thought they could replace Teoscar, or they decided, well, we're going to do run prevention and be more balanced. But it's hard to do that in the American League. You still have to have, top 4 or 5 offense, runs, power numbers, all of that, just because of the competition within the league. So, I felt like they were a bat short coming into the season. And as you're watching it unfold, it probably warranted 2 bats, and not necessarily just, DeYoung. DeYoung was the stopgap, right? Because at the time Bichette was hurt. So the unfortunate part about that, and that, in your planning, you think there's going to be guys available at the deadline, and there really wasn't a lot, unfortunately. And so, their intention might have been to improve or to upgrade there. Just the market wasn't there for offensive bats, really. So I'm not defending him. Don't get me wrong, but I think that coming into the season, I thought they were short of bat, and it certainly turned out that way, probably more.
We're chatting with Jim Duquette, former MLB GM. You hear him on MLB Network Radio. The Jays off today. They're in Cincinnati tomorrow. And Joey Votto is possibly the greatest Canadian ball player ever. He's certainly on a short list. And
he's in the conversation.
Without question, he's in the conversation, and he's still kicking. He's still going. When you look back on his career, and I know he's still playing, but he's on the 18th green. This could be the end of the road for Joey. Is he a Hall of Famer for you, and how would you describe his career?
Well, I think, for me, he's right there on the cusp of it, right? So at the end of the day, if I had a vote, I'd give it to him. I think he's done enough. He's been in the sport long enough. He's been an all-star, a premium type player. Now, you say all that, and I don't have his hit totals right in front of me. There's a high bar for first baseman, in the Hall. So I think he's gonna butt up against that, and maybe he doesn't get the love that he should. But I think that what he has done for the sport on top of that, and I'm biased because I've had multiple times I've had a chance to interview him spring training during the course of the season. He's one of my favorite interviews probably ever. He's that type of guy. He's got the sense of humor, but he's the baseball intellect as well. So, in the end, those are always hard to predict in the Hall, but I would give him a vote if I had one. Unfortunately, I don't.
Yeah, I'm looking at his numbers here. He's got a career 923 OPS and a career 145 OPS plus. Like, those are a career 410 on base.
That's impressive numbers,
That's
right?
outrageous.
Well, here's the thing. He doesn't have the big number. He doesn't come close necessarily the home runs that McGriff had, right? But I'm curious of the hit total. And if you look at those other rate stats, how they compared to McGriff, I think they're better. Mm-hmm. It took McGriff all this time to get in, through the committee, voted in from the committee. And I thought for sure McGriff was a guy that would get in. So the bar is a little higher, at least in the voters' mind, first base.
When I was young, my dad used to tell me that the Jays used to beat up on the Yankees back in the day. And you don't believe it, right? Because the Yankees have just been so good for so long. They've always had the payroll. They've always had the superstars. They still have the stars. They still have the payroll, but not a good season for the Yankees. Like, how quickly do they kind of rebound out of this? And do you see big changes coming there?
Well, they have to change over the roster. I think that in terms of I don't get the indication, at least at the moment, that their general manager or manager are in trouble. Now, Aaron Boone, just signed a contract extension. So did the GM. I think he's got a year more than Boone does, Brian Cashman does. But for me, the roster was flawed from the start, and very much centered around Aaron Judge. They wouldn't believe it. So, but you can kind of peel back some of the things, and they were all in on that. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa trade along with Josh Donaldson, and I remember at the time saying that this isn't going to. I don't think it's going to end well. I mean, Donaldson was. You guys saw Donaldson.
Oh, it's a mess.
Towards the decline. Yeah, already. So then they doubled down on it. So for me, they've had a number of injuries, but that doesn't excuse the season that they've had. We're basically looking at a historic season. There's a good chance they're going to end up below 500, which it hasn't happened in 30 years.
Yeah, a long
years?
time. Mid-90s, I think.
Yeah, mid-90s, 95.
Yep.
Yeah, this late in the season, they haven't been under 500 since 95. So, and I think a full season, I think it was 1992. I want to say. So, we're in historic areas right now. Listen, no one feels sorry for the Yankees. I definitely don't. I was a Red Sox fan growing up, and I was an executive for the Mets for a long time. They've always been a thorn in my side. So. Good riddance.
Yeah.
For a year.
Hey, you're getting the same sentiments up here. I can tell you, Jim. I can guarantee you that in Toronto.
I'm sure.
Thank you for doing this. We appreciate it.
Guys, we'll talk to you soon. See ya.
Jim Duquette, former MLB GM, MLB Network radio host. And, no one's ever going to shed a tear for the Yankees.
What year are you born? You're 83?
83.
I'm born in 93. So my dad used to say that, like, oh, dude, the Jays used to beat up on the Yankees. It used to be laughable. Mm-hmm. And for years, it was like Yankees every year. There's another pennant. There's another division. There's another championship run. I never saw it.
That's the thing. Like, we keep seeing the reference of 95, the last time they were 500 or worse through 120 games. They would have gone on that crazy Jeter, Posada, Pettit, Rivera run the next year, I believe.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure they won the World Series in like 96, 97. 99, like something crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. Like late 80s, early 90s, they were not. There was a period where they weren't that good.
That was
Don
like the
Mattingly was the guy, and
George Steinbrenner was running things.
Yeah,
and
eventually he turned things around.
Yeah.
Like he was obviously a big part of that resurgence in the late 90s and early 2000s. But yeah, listen, I'll give Yankee fans credit because they hold their team to an incredibly high standard, and they will not move off that.
Yeah.
Like, this is simply not acceptable. Yeah. And I have such an appreciation for that when I consider, what we deal with sometimes in Toronto and how we try to talk ourselves into something being successful when it's simply not.
Yeah.
Like, they work under the guys in New York. You're either winning a World Series or you didn't. Don't give me you won 99 games and made it to an ALCS last year.
And they'll boo you right out of the building. Like your building, they will boo you.
The Yankees won 99 games and were in the ALCS last year. Like the 15 and 16 Jays, they didn't win 99 games, and yet they made it to the ALCS, and they are revered.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing ever.
And they're calling for Boone's head. They're calling for Cashman.
Right.
Everyone's had enough over there.
And listen, the teams, they're not a very good team. They're not. And they doubled down on some guys that they should not have doubled down on. Sure, Judge has been hurt, but...
Well, it just goes to show you last year.
They're not a good team.
We followed Aaron Judge and his home run journey, but that was the thing that was saving that team after that really good start.
It was all
Judge. He was carrying that team.
Yeah. He was the only guy. Anthony Rizzo at times, but now Rizzo's been hurt. And prior to the concussion diagnosis, which took a long time, he was really struggling.
Well, even last year when they kind of went all in, they traded for Montas from Oakland. He's been hurt. He hadn't played a game this year, and they traded a lot to get him too.
Yeah, no, it's been a mess.
Just a lot of bad asset management.
And that's the thing. That's why I understand why people are looking at the GM saying, why does this guy have a free pass?
Yeah,
like Cashman has been there forever.
At some point, you lose your touch. Like, I get it's 25 years, whatever it is. Like, at some point, you just lose, you lose it a little bit. Yes. The allure is gone or whatever. You lose your fastball.
I would suggest that's probably already happened.
Yeah.
And Yankee fans, I think, are picking up on it. But if Steinbrenner doesn't, the ownership doesn't, if Cashman keeps sticking around, then this is probably what they're going to continue to do. And that's a good sign for the Blue Jays.
Great for the Jays.
And possibly the Rays and the Orioles and maybe the Red Sox. Although Boston's kind of in a similar position right now.
And that's the thing that would scare me about the AL East. It's like, okay, Baltimore's good right now. Tampa's good. Like, what happens when the Yankees and the Sox? It's a cycle, right? Yes. Like, they're coming back around, and when they do, it's going to be big time. That's just how they do it.
Yep. It's just a matter of time. They will.
Yeah.
Marcellus Wiley in about 20 minutes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
You want a little recap from my men's league, beer league debut last night?
Just thought of that. I was like, I need an update here. We talked extensively about it yesterday.
I got a few observations.
Yeah?
I'll start with my own, like my body first. I don't know if you've experienced this after not putting your skates on for a long time, but my feet are killing me.
It's death.
Killing me.
It's death. The feet, like, because the footprints of your skates... It's like your feet have changed.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, now I'm just wearing flip-flops every day. Right? I put them in these cement boots. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. It's like riding a bike back out there. Observations as far as like the on-ice product, it was better than I expected.
Okay.
Guys were making passes. Guys were making plays. There was some good speed. If you pass the puck to the point, you might as well just throw the puck away and get rid of it. It's over. If you pass the puck, you should never pass to the point in beer league. That was the first thing. Yeah. And even if you do, there are some gentlemen out there playing defense that they have no interest in actually playing defense. They are it is breakaway city.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would say is the score is not a reflection of the game. It's a reflection of the goaltending. Goals are just going in left, right, and center from anywhere.
Yeah,
there's no rhyme or reason to it.
If it's an older goalie, what I always find hysterical is how often he takes his helmet off.
Yes.
Like you get an old codger in there.
Yeah.
He's got the red face cooking.
Yeah.
He'll get that bucket up for a splash of water basically every 45 seconds.
So we were doing every first team to 5 goals, then the goalies switch sides.
Yeah.
But as soon as that fifth goal would go in, both goalies bucket off.
Immediately.
Water, back of the neck.
Yeah, the back of the neck. If they've got a stash, they're like, it's extra hot on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how the old timers, they will get that goalie helmet off so quickly.
Yeah.
And spray down the whole engine.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah. So that was, that's the basis of it, but we did it.
Still, all in all, sounds like a pretty successful
all was good.
Little rendezvous.
I stayed on for 60 minutes. I called it after.
See, that's a good sign.
They were still on the ice. I said, boys, I've had enough here.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's still a good sign. You got out there, you did your thing. Are you going back? Is it going to become a weekly routine?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, you're right, though, about the skates, man. Like, and you would have relatively modern skates. Like
I got
when
skates from 2 years ago.
See, I put on skates that I was using in junior.
Oh, yeah.
And it had been like 8 or 10 years since I had put them on.
Leather grafts.
They were grafts.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got off the ice after 5 minutes. I'm like, I can't do it. There's no way. All right, final hour coming up. Overdrive continues. Marcellus Wiley will join us, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.